up for the general election scheduled to be held on 12 January 2026, President Yoweri Museveni is seeking another term. The East African country's longtime leader in 2026 will be up against his political rival Bobi Wine, born Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, who has built a large youth following. Museveni is applauded for stabilizing the country, growing economy and combating HIV/AIDS, but his critics have slammed him for a crackdown on the opposition, human rights abuses and corruption. As we focus on the political landscape in Uganda ahead of the elections, we speak to Marion Kirabo, who is a Ugandan lawyer, feminist, Lord Councillor, woman aspirant for Makerere University on the National Unity Platform, or NUP ticket. She says the political space has become more and more violent, making a lot of women shut it. She joins us now to share more. A very good morning to you, Marion. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thank you for having me.
We're good. Thanks so much. And it's our pleasure. The Electoral Commission in Uganda, or the EC, confirmed 7 successfully completed nomination processes to challenge the current president, Yoweri Museveni, in 2026, all men. With the entire presidential race male-dominated, no women are vying to challenge President Museveni for the first time in decades. Is this to be expected?
Well, it's a bit shocking, but it also goes to show the kind of unfavorable infrastructure that is in place to allow women to run. It will be the first time in 2 decades that we have not have had any women on the ballot since 2026. Which is shocking given the fact that 121 people picked nomination forms. Out of them, 15 were female. And of the 38 that returned the nomination papers, only 3 out of the 15 women were able to return papers. And really, this time the issue came really on 2 things. The most controversial one being the return of signatures. One of the requirements for you to be successfully nominated for that particular position is that you have to have at least 2/3 signatures from at least 2/3 of the districts, which is, let me say, from 28 districts, you should have at least 100 signatures. So that is about 9,800 signatures that are supporting your nomination to your nomination for the presidency. So a lot of that's the first hurdle that most aspirants face, traversing 98 districts, making sure that 100 people from each district endorse you. Most of the people that we saw pick up nomination forms were very young people. Some straight out of the university, some still at the university. And this demographic is really a demographic that is unemployed. Secondly, it is a demographic that even if they're out of university and even if they're employed, the resources that they have available to them cannot allow them to traverse 98 districts and get those signatures. Some of them don't even have cars. Some of them have salaries that are less than 500,000 shillings. So really the first hurdle came there, the fact that you have all these young people, but most of them are not able to return those signatures. Now, the 3 women that returned the signatures, there was an issue of there were not enough signatures, that the first challenges during verification, and the EC kept on turning them away. And this was mostly for all candidates. I remember that for our particular presidential aspirant, the National Unity Platform flag bearer, Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi, was particularly told to go back and get signatures from 18 districts that he had. They claimed that they did not that he did not have enough signatures, so he had to go back. And for him, at least he had the privilege that he has a robust political party. We're a robust political party. We have built an infrastructure in almost every region of the country. So we were able to collect those signatures in just one day. But most of these women were independents. They have no political affiliation. And so mostly they are lone wolves in this particular process. So to tell them, let me say 3 days or 2 days to the nomination, to the deadline of the nomination, that you should have your signatures are not enough, please go back to the field and collect. Some of them were not able to. But also you have to put into perspective that there is the issue of the nomination fee, which most of them cannot afford. It's about 20 million Ugandan shillings. That is so exorbitant, and most people most Ugandans may never even see that money in a lifetime, may never even aspire to earn that much money in a lifetime. So there are those infrastructural hindrances that they had to getting nominated. And this time, unfortunately, for the 3 women who returned their nomination forms, they weren't able to break those barriers and be nominated successfully.
So quite a number of challenges there. But let's go back a bit in 2006 then, when widow of former President Milton Obote, Maria Obote, contested for presidency. Can this be seen as some move in the right direction for women representation in political leadership in Uganda, or this was too slow to note as a positive?
No, I think at that time it was seen as a hallmark event. Some analysts described it as breaking the glass ceiling for most of the women, because our politics has been quite turbulent and violent, and we have had several military regimes, and for women it becomes quite difficult to really participate in such a violent and such an uncertain political atmosphere. So for her to come up at that time and actually participate, it was seen as a big breakthrough. But also, after she put in her bid to run, the successive electoral processes, we've been lucky that we have had 1 or 2 women running. So she kind of opened the door, though the numbers were still low, but at least it was better than now. We would at least have that 1 woman or 2 women who are running. So I wouldn't say that it was too slow. We had hoped that as time goes on, more and more women join. But I think also with the violence that we are facing in our political atmosphere, and the fact that the more women participate, the more we are seeing incidences of where women in the political space are being kidnapped, sexually assaulted. We recently lost a supporter from the NUP this year who was tortured, Mariano Alexandria, who was tortured, assaulted, and died in a hospital. So with the violence that is characterizing our politics right now, that at any time, if you're a presidential candidate, you will be locked up, or if you're a flag bearer of a certain political party, or if you're just an independent candidate and just participating, at any time you can be disappeared. Many women are shunning away. It's already a patriarchal system in which they are dealing with, but now couple it with the violence. It's becoming more and more difficult for women to participate. Remember that for us women, there's a double burden that we have. We have to think about our families, we have to think about our children. So many women weigh that and be like, oh, if I leave, what happens to to the people behind me, that means that, I would have sacrificed my whole family and all that. But also the level of violence emitted on women is so much more, I would say. We are quite vulnerable
So
when it comes to
what
violence.
ongoing commitment then will be needed from political parties such as the National Unity Platform or NUP to ensure that women have a clear path towards leadership, particularly at the highest levels in governance?
Well, I would say for the NUP, we are operating in this system. When it comes to the violence, really, it is a collective that we need more voices to put an end to the current regime. We're not the people in power, we're not the people who are wielding this violence against the citizens. It is the regime in power. So on our end, we have tried going as far as the ICC to report this violence. We have tried to engage the international community because, again, these are civilians against a military machinery. And we are trying to get justice for every citizen that has been affected by this. But alone, we cannot do much. We need our brothers and sisters across the international space to stand in solidarity with us, as it has always been. I know when South Africa was facing the apartheid regime, you called upon your fellow brothers and sisters across the continent to join hands with you, and that is how you were able to get rid of that rogue regime now. And I'm now using this platform to call for the same solidarity from our brothers and sisters across the African continent to stand with us and dislodge this regime that has caused a lot of suffering to many of our brothers and sisters in Uganda. We cannot do it alone. We need your support. But then also on the other, as a political party, we have done all we can to promote women in leadership in our structures, but also in the different positions out there to field as many women, to encourage them. We even have a leadership school where we mentor young women and really support them in their journey, in their political journey. So we are trying to push efforts to make sure that we see more and more women's presence out there. But when it comes to the violence, we need everyone.
Marion, we're going to leave it there for now. We are out of time, but thank you so much again for your thoughts and analysis.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Marion Kirabo is a Ugandan lawyer, feminist, Lord Councillor woman aspirant for the Makerere University on the National Unity Platform or NUP ticket.
A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Now, for further analysis, we speak to researcher and political analyst, Dr. Frederick Galooba. Dr. Galooba, thanks for joining us. All right, he's not there yet, so we'll get back to that chat in a bit.
Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Good morning starts here. Rise and shine on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
All right, let's speak to Dr. Frederick Galooba now for further analysis on Uganda's elections. He's researcher and political analyst. Dr. Galooba, thanks for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Why are these elections important for Uganda?
Well, they're important only in the sense that it's now an established tradition, if one might put it that way, that every 5 years there is an election in Uganda and in other African countries. They're also important They are kind of a practice run for Ugandans to learn how to handle things of this kind, possible changes of government, and also to try and change the government in power if they want to. But beyond that, I don't think they're that important.
Opposition leader Bobby Wine or Robert Kyagulanyi has been cleared to run in the 2026 elections. In Uganda, the Electoral Commission has or had rejected his initial submission. What do you read, or how do you read into this development?
Well, the demand by the Electoral Commission that Mr. Kyagulanyi's party submit more signatures from across the country endorsing him as a candidate was not restricted only to his party, because there were also other parties and other candidates who were asked to submit extra signatures. Now, the question is whether the Electoral Commission was acting fairly or whether the Electoral Commission actually did that because signatures were missing. Now, what we have heard, and these claims have been made by various politicians who were asked to submit other signatures, is that the people who signed for them from across the country, some of them were being called by the security agencies and questioned in ways that would have suggested they were intimidatory. So people feared that something might happen to them, and so they denied having signed. Now, there is also an allegation that somehow the Electoral Commission wanted to create space for President Museveni to be nominated on a separate day from Kyagulanyi. And also, to make it impossible for Kyagulanyi's party to hold more than one political rally. Now, these are allegations, but given what we have learned about political campaigns in Uganda, given what we have experienced, it's probably not that far-fetched that the Electoral Commission was playing games.
In past elections held in 2021, Wine secured 35% or against Museveni's 58% of votes, which was his least amount of votes, that is Museveni, since taking power. Can Wine still be viewed as Museveni's main rival?
Well, there is no doubt about that. There are several opposition parties in Uganda, several opposition candidates who are running against the president. But from what we have observed during the nomination processes, it's very clear that Bobby Wine is the leading opponent of President Museveni. And incidentally, this has also been said publicly by some of the other potential candidates who wanted to run against President Museveni or whose parties wanted to run but have subsequently decided to not sponsor candidates. It's very clear Bobby Wine remains the main opponent of President Museveni, and the National Unity Platform remains the most serious rival to the ruling party, the National Resistance Movement.
That National Unity Platform or NUP party has the support of mostly the working class and communities in urban areas. In what ways can he strengthen his roadmap for Uganda, Bobby Wine, to better place his party as one that is in touch with ordinary citizens' concerns?
Actually, the claim that the National Unity Platform has support mainly or only in urban areas or only among the poorer sections of society is not well-founded. For one thing, the National Unity Platform has never been allowed space to campaign freely across the country. It has been hounded out of certain regions. Their rallies have been disrupted. They have gone into up-country towns where they are not even allowed to stop. So the harassment they have faced does not allow for such a conclusion to be made in ways that are credible. My own assessment is that if the National Unity Platform was given the space or allowed the space to campaign freely across the country, that's the only way we would know how much support it has. But the support that we see concentrated in urban areas or only in certain parts of the country, that's where they are allowed to campaign. The ruling party has a history of obstructing the activities of other political parties. And of course, this narrative of, their support is only in urban areas and concentrated in one region, Uganda, it's a self-serving argument that has been put forward by members of the ruling party, but it hasn't really been tested. My own opinion is that it's not true. We have seen circumstantial evidence of the National Unity Platform having support far, far outside towns and outside this one region where Bobby Wine comes from, the region of Uganda.
Another opposition figure in the country on that point, Kizza Besigye, is in jail on treason charges. He challenged Museveni in 4 previous elections starting in 2001. Besigye was tried by a military tribunal, even though Uganda's Supreme Court declared it unlawful for civilians to be tried in this manner back in January of this year. Why do you think this defiance of the courts would be allowed to happen when it has been seen that Ugandans are vocal about what's going on in their country?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the current government in Uganda has a history of defying court orders. It has a history of intimidating courts or judges. There is a certain level of impunity that is now really clearly associated with the sitting government, and unfortunately, there is nothing that opposition parties can do. There is nothing that Ugandans can do when the government defies the orders of courts of law. It's not surprising because it's not new. This has been happening for pretty much the last 20, 30 years. So, yeah, that's how the government behaves. And, yeah, Ugandans have to live with it because I don't see that there is anything they can do about it.
What about those major companies who invest in Uganda? Your Total Energies, for example, Stanbic Bank, MTN, amongst others. What stand can they take to call out the repressive regime of the country, and would there be a will for them to do so?
Personally, not sure that it would even be wise for businesses to get involved in those kinds of things. It's not for businesses to determine or influence who runs a country. If you ask me why they are still in Uganda, Uganda has a very dynamic economy. There's a lot of money to be made in Uganda, and rightly so. And those companies create jobs in the country, and those jobs are not created merely for supporters of the ruling party. So personally, I would not want to see businesses getting involved in these political arguments. The people that I would have loved to hear from are development partners. And for some reason, many of us who watch their behavior have been really quite taken aback by their silence. In the face of really quite egregious violations of human rights. There have been abductions, people are being locked up arbitrarily, people are not being taken to court, people are being taken to military courts when they are civilians. And this has been met by a deafening silence from development partners who tend to be quite vocal in other countries. So for me, businesses, I wouldn't want them to get involved. And I don't think it would be sensible for them to get involved. There are other international actors who could get involved and make some arguments to support Ugandans who are fighting for change, but who surprise us by their very, very determined silence.
Dr. Galooba, we'll leave it there for today. We thank you so much again for your analysis.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Frederick Galooba is a researcher and political analyst, giving us his views and analysis on the Ugandan elections, the build-up to January 2026. It's 8:30 Central African time. Let's not go in reverse now. That means it's time for news headlines. Here's Onel Nzinzi.